Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hey, I'd like to warmly welcome you all to our session, Accelerating the Global NCD Agenda Through Youth-Led Action, sponsored by NCD Child and the Mission of Denmark, and supported by Novo Nordisk. Thank you all immensely for all of your support in making this session happen and bringing all these incredible people here together. My name is Victoria Watson, and I am today's moderator. I am on the Governing Council of NCD Child, and I've been a long-standing advocate for the needs of young people within the prevention, treatment, and management of non-communicable diseases, both within my role with NCD Child as their Youth Voices Committee Chair, and also my role in Washington at the Center for Health and Gender Equity. I am honored to be with you all today and to be facilitating such an important conversation that brings attention to the need for NCD prevention and control to protect the health, the well-being, the social and economic development of the next generations, and to highlight the critical role that youth play in advocacy, policy discussions, and designing the interventions to achieve this. Now, I'd like to introduce to the table Her Excellency, the Danish Minister of Health, Ellen Trane Norby.
Thank you very much. I hope Her Royal Highness Crown Prince Mary will also be among us very, very shortly, but distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this event. As Minister for Health in Denmark, I'm very, very pleased to have the opportunity to be here today and to call attention to the great potentials that lie in involving children and young people in the global fight against NCDs. Let me begin by testing whether all of you had a good night's sleep by giving you some numbers to consider and maybe to memorize. 2, 15, 41, 71. Those were not the last week's lottery winning numbers, but it was 2 as in 2 seconds. According to the WHO, a life is lost prematurely among people at the age of 30 to 70 every 2 seconds due to NCDs. 15, as in 15 million people whose lives are cut short due to NCDs. 41, as in 41 million people each year killed by NCDs. 71, as in 71% of all deaths worldwide are said to be caused by NCDs. Behind these numbers, behind these figures, we find people. We find children, we find mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, friends, family, and colleagues. Many of these lives are lost simply because of living conditions are not supportive of a healthy life. People are at risk because they live in remote, rural communities, in urban slums, in conflict areas. They live with disabilities or simply because they're girls. In addition, it is indeed particularly heartbreaking when some of the chronic diseases are in fact treatable, such as asthma, diabetes. These conditions do not need to be a death sentence, but in many areas of the world they are. Good health is a common universal goal and a universal challenge as well. As NCDs are at the rise, tackling them is also key to achieving the 2030 goals on development, and it is also key that we all focus on it. When we talk about the future and when we talk SDGs 2030, we indeed talk about the future. And when we say future, we indeed need to talk about children and young people. They are the ones that will live in the future and hopefully have a better life than the generations before them. Therefore, we also need to focus on how to combat NCDs and putting even more emphasis on the hidden killers in the everyday life, and also to include children and youngsters much more into this debate. According to the WHO, there's evidence indicating that children can be born with increased risks of developing NCDs based on the health status of their parents. Moreover, people are increasingly developing NCDs at a far younger age than before. WHO estimates that half of the NCD-related deaths every year are associated with habits or behaviors established at a young age. And we all know that children are vulnerable and are at the mercy of the resources available to their family. The financial and economic barriers families face lead to increased stress and emotional burdens. This is a hard cycle to break. When it comes to mental illness, stigmatization adds even further difficulties, such as stress, social exclusion, self-criticism, and unhealthy lifestyle. In all manners, we need to give the children and the youngsters a greater voice in this debate. And we need to ensure that we all fight for giving them a better start in life. This is also why we would like to put more emphasis on the experiences and the challenges and the stories of young people, children. And we need to listen to their voices in decision-making and in prevention and in building up our healthcare systems, because otherwise we will not manage to treat their NCDs in a way where we also put them in the center. Children who are given the opportunity to grow up in a healthy environment, responsive to their needs, can significantly reduce the risk of developing NCDs in their adulthood. And therefore, it is also a focus both for this event, but also in our core policy, that we would like to include children and young people much more into the decision-making and also to give them a voice. And therefore, I would also like to express a special thanks to all the children and young people who participated in the Global Art Contest, which was launched on the World Health Day in April to raise awareness on young people affected by NCDs. So I'm very grateful that we also here today can recognize the work of young people and commit to having their voices heard, because I think that the art pieces they've made really show the struggle that they also feel in their daily life. I'm also especially honored that I know that Her Royal Highness, Crown Princess Mary of Denmark, will be here also for part of the ceremony in order also to help raising the voices of the young people. So in closing, I, as Minister of Health, and we as a country in one of the parts of the world where we have the NCDs and the fight against NCDs high on the political agenda, we also hope that we can raise awareness on how we globally can tackle the NCDs even more in order to reach the SDG goals also on health. So I would like to express my gratitude also for WHO, for its leadership, and also for the NCD Child Coalition for co-hosting this event today. Thank you for your tireless efforts to improve the prevention, the treatment, and the management of NCDs among children, adolescents, and young people. And thank you all for your attention. I hope we will have some good times together this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your inspiring words. Today, as you noted, this session marks an unprecedented time for us to come together and bring attention to young leaders who are dedicated to being global health advocates for the prevention, treatment, and management of non-communicable diseases, and the critical role of youth-led action in shaping how we appropriately respond to their issues. As we know, the future burden of non-communicable diseases can be prevented largely by focusing on the needs of the next generation, from addressing behavioral risks to better regulating the social, the economic, and the environmental determinants impacting their lives. As systems begin to prioritize these needs, youth have an incredibly important voice in the decisions being made that impact their lives. How can we really know what's going to be effective for them if we don't integrate their voices? As both a target audience as well as the intervention and the prevention of NCDs, there's a great opportunity in getting young people to the table to help define the priorities for meaningful health system action, ensuring change accurately reflects the realities of their experiences. There is no enhancing the global health of the future without enhancing the role and rights of young people today. NCD Child, the key sponsor of this event, is a global multi-stakeholder coalition that champions the rights and needs of young people living with or who are at risk of developing non-communicable diseases, has played a central role